In this segment, we're going to talk about replication. So replication is a very critical component to your overall disaster recovery plans. Think in terms of replication in the old days. Replication in the old days was typically done at a hardware level or at a file level. Right? Hardware level, very expensive. You need identical disk arrays at both sides. You need dedicated pipes. Very expensive proposition. And it's in use in a lot of the major corporations out there today. There are use cases that demand this type of replication. If you're running something that is transactional down to the second, you can't miss a single transaction, then that's the platform of choice, right? File-based replication is usually based on software, and it sees a new file get created, it copies that new file out. This is, kind of like a first-generation approach to software-based replication in the sense that it was very slow because when a file changes, it had to send the entire file. AppAssure, everything in AppAssure is done at a block level on the volume. So we have this ability to identify a block that has changed instead of an entire file, just one segment of it, and sending that block. Furthermore, replication is done using something called a read-match-write algorithm. What this algorithm does is it allows us to first check and see if the block already exists in the remote site. If it does, then it doesn't have to send it. Add on top of that the level of compression and data deduplication that we get. Well, you can just imagine how we're saving you a ton of disk space on both sides of the equation here. So dedupe, when we talk about dedupe is done on a global level. So that means if I have a single core and I'm deduping on that single core, and I have a bunch of machines that I'm protecting, then I'm only going to store one copy of each block. So if I have 10 servers with 10 copies of Windows, well, I only have to store one copy of Windows. Now, if I have 5 sites and I replicate them all back to a single core in a main data center, well, I've already got one copy of Windows from one of those sites, which means as the rest of them come online, they use the read-match-write algorithm, and they don't have to actually send that entire copy of Windows from their own server, right? So there's massive economies of scale here when it comes to the implementation. So how does it work, right? First things first, we have to set up a pairing, right? So we'll go to the replication tab, and on the replication tab, what we're going to do is we're going to configure a remote core. So we'll go to Actions, Add Remote Core. It wants a host name. This can be an IP address, a fully qualified domain name, or a simple name if you've got that worked out with your DNS server. In this case, it's AA Core 2. Actually, we're going to take it out from here because this is the one we would use for service providers. We're going to say I have my own core, and then we'll use our standard credentials. So in this case, it's AA_demo/administrator. And our password. It'll go out and it'll do a handshake with the other core. And then the relationship will be formed. There are some advantages of getting this done beforehand. Basically, right now it's asking, okay, well, I found this replicated, or this other core. Let me go ahead and check the machines that I would like to replicate, choosing the repository that I'm going to store them in, so I can have obviously multiple repositories, and then whether or not I want to use a seed drive to perform the initial transfer. This is very beneficial if you have a slow WAN connection and you don't want to send the initial large amount of data over the wire. You can actually write this to a drive and then ship the drive and ingest it on the other side. In this case, we're just going to hit Start Replication. And you can see that the jobs have actually been begun. Now, if I go to outgoing replication and expand, I can get the details on everything. Right, so I can look and see once these complete, what their status is, what the recovery points look like on both sides. All from one nice, easy to use view. And that's it. That's how you configure replication. Replication works from one core to another only. The data that goes over the wire is encrypted, so we don't have to worry about, being exposed if we're on like an open internet connection. The other nice thing about the way the replication works is it gives you the ability to, have that data in the remote site up to date after every snapshot. Right, so I know if I set my snaps to every 15 minutes, that means in my remote site is up to 15 minutes behind production. Right, if I set it to 5 minutes, well, it's 5 minutes. And you have to obviously have the bandwidth to do this, but the nice thing is it utilizes a very little amount of bandwidth, so you don't generally, have to deal with that. If you needed to make sure that your production network traffic were, to have the, full run of the pipe, even during, replication times, you would just simply configure quality of service on your routers and put the AppAssure traffic at the bottom of the stack. And that's replication. Combine replication with virtual standby in the remote site, and you have a complete end-to-end disaster recovery turnkey solution. Right? All you have to do is configure them. They'll be up and running in the event of a disaster. You simply press a button, start them up, and you're back in business. Thank you.